let's begin with this subsidy debate. Of course, the report here shows that the federal government is saying that they are developing a comprehensive guide for the incoming administration of Bola Tinubu on how to manage the removal of subsidy on premium motor spirits, that's PMS, also known as petrol. But the alarming situation is the fact that they are saying they've spent over 13 trillion naira subsidizing PMS, and that's between 2015 and 2021. Does this raise any alarm in your head, especially considering the fact that come June, a few days away, the talks about total removal of subsidy would kick in?
Well, it doesn't raise any alarm with me, because that is the reality on ground, that we have been spending quite a huge chunk of our national asset to fund the fuel subsidy regime. And as at the moment, everybody is on the page that it is time that we remove the fuel subsidy, that we have a place so that more money can be freed to the 3 tiers of government, and it can embark on projects that will touch the lives of the people. And if the outgoing government is saying they are developing a comprehensive plan, yes, it is in tandem with their responsibility, because don't forget, the outgoing government has the responsibility to submit a handover note to the incoming administration on the credit and debit side of the administration. And it is from there that the new administration will take off by studying those reports and deciding which way to go. So for me, the issue about fuel subsidy removal is one that a lot of Nigerians are on the page that it is due, and even the Nigerian Labour Congress has also keyed into it. Only that people are saying before we can do that, we should ensure that the local refinery of petroleum products happens here. And when that happens, a lot of foreign exchange will be saved. A lot of byproducts from the refining of crude oil will also be harnessed for the benefit of the economy, and it will go a long way in creating wealth as well.
But how feasible is that?
Very feasible, because the Dangote refinery is coming on stream shortly, and as we speak, a lot of modular refineries are also in place. So it is not out of place to assume that the new refineries will come on stream, and we will start local production of petroleum products, local refinery of petroleum products. Refining, sorry.
All right, let's move on to this next story. The federal government is saying that about 350 trillion naira would be needed to secure Nigeria's future. That's in line with the National Development Plan of 2021 to 2025. And according to them, the National Development Plan would ease constraints hindering the economy from attaining its full potential, particularly in the product mapping space, as it will expunge obstacles to businesses. And that's coming from the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, who spoke during a special TV forum examining binding constraints to the implementation of the planning recently in Abuja. We see a lot of figures coming out here, especially when it comes to spending. Do we have these funds, looking at the fact that, yes, the transition period is upon us and there is a lot of spending that is still going on?
We have always had development plans with regards to where our economy could be in the next XY number of years from time immemorial. And if the government in power today has also deemed it fit, to develop a national development plan, looking ahead into the future, I don't think there's anything wrong in that. It is for the government that, is in the saddle to take up these development plans at every stage of governance, to examine it, to look at where are we, where would you want to get to, and how do we get there, and what are the benchmark, for arriving there. If it is about the resources or the finances needed to do that, there are so many options available to government, to access resources.
Indeed, the options are available, but the question is, is the economy viable for all of this? Because most times when we talk about raising funds, what the federal government is looking at is borrowing, and we know that the debt profile of the country isn't anything to write home about currently. And so we want to look at ways by which we want to, or we can boost revenue and reduce borrowing. Nelson, if you can hear me, please go ahead.
The reason why we have had to borrow quite a lot is because of the downsides of the revenue of the government, because the major source of revenue of the government has been through crude oil sales, and the large chunk of the profit from crude oil sales that should have gone into the national coffers for developmental purposes has been used, to pay for fuel subsidy. So in doing that, the sources of revenue of the government has been handicapped, and so the government has to look for another source of revenue to perform its responsibility, and that is why the government has gone at borrowing. But if we have gone borrowing for developmental purposes rather than for for recurrent expenditure, I don't see anything wrong in it, because today we are talking about the second Niger bridge, the economic impacts of that road. We are talking about the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. We are talking about a large chunk of our roads that have been reconstructed or constructed newly by this administration. We are talking about the railway lines. We are talking about the airports that have been built. We are talking about investment in the power sector. These are investments that these borrowed funds will go a long way in affecting the economy positively in the long run. When people complain about borrowing, the question I ask, what is the purpose of the borrowing? If I have to borrow today to build a house, and in 10 or 20 years time I'm collecting, I'm servicing that debt, and maybe in the next 20 years the house becomes mine fully, that means my successors will be the beneficiaries. So government is not about today. Government is about tomorrow. It's about the future. How do you make life meaningful for the people? And when people talk about government facing a mountain of challenges, yes, that is the purpose of government. Governance is meant to ameliorate the human condition.
Let's talk about this circulation of substandard gas that, according to operators under the aegis of the Liquefied Petroleum Gas Retailers Branch of the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, that's NUPENG, they've raised alarm over the influx of substandard cylinders and liquefied petroleum gas, popularly called cooking gas, with high propane content in circulation. This is some worrisome trend. Earlier last year we heard about the contaminated fuel in circulation, and we know what that did to vehicles, generators, and the economy generally. But now this alarm raised by NUPENG, talking about the contaminated or substandard fuel, gas rather, what does this mean for the economy?
Oh, the implication for the economy is on the negative side, and one is disturbed because we have people policing our borders. We have the Nigerian Customs Service. We have the Standard Organization of Nigeria. So the question we should ask, those responsible for controlling or for assessing what comes into the country, how have they been alive to their responsibility? Because if this substandard gas cylinders get into the economy, the effects on the Nigerian society is better imagined. The lives that will be lost, the goods that could be destroyed, and the large amount of money that has gone into this process will also be lost on the economy. So going forward, it is for us to call on those saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that standards are conformed to, that those people perform their responsibility according to law. And those are the border entry points of the country, because when these cylinders come into the country, they are supposed to go through a check. So what is the duty of those who are saddled with that responsibility? Is it that they have abdicated their responsibility and they are endangering the national security? So those are questions we should continue to raise up. But most importantly also, we should engage with the citizenry such that the citizens themselves can be the watchdog to identify the substandard gas cylinders, so that when they go into the market and they see these substandard gas cylinders, they don't buy them, and they can quickly notify the authorities who will come and do the needful. In that way, the calamity that these substandard gas cylinders could inflict on the society will be greatly minimized.